You know that quiet shock when your wallet feels fine, your life feels normal, and then the bank app opens and the number is lower than you expected? Not because of one disaster, not because of one reckless night, just 100 small leaks. A coffee here, a delivery fee there, a subscription you forgot, a little extra at the grocery store because you were tired. That is the painful part. Money rarely disappears in one dramatic moment. It fades in ways that are easy to miss. Today, I want to show you a calm Kakeibo habit that makes those leaks visible again. You will see why handwriting works, how to set it up in a very simple way, and the one weekly question that can catch hidden spending before it turns into another month of regret. Stay with me to the end, because the last section is the overlooked part most people skip. It is the reason this method feels peaceful instead of restrictive. Money mirror. Look at your spending the way it actually behaves, not in theory, in real life. Most people do not lose money because they are careless. They lose money because modern spending is designed to vanish. Tap the card, walk away, scroll on, the receipt disappears. The app gives a tiny alert. The moment is gone. Then a few weeks later, you are standing in a quiet kitchen, looking at a nearly empty fridge, a pile of receipts, and a bank statement that feels vaguely insulting. The first leak is not the purchase itself. It is the invisibility of the purchase. That is where Kakeibo helps. A notebook, a pen, a few calm minutes. Enough friction to make money visible again. When you write groceries, 4,200 yen, or takeout, 1,800 yen, or subscription, 980 yen, the spending becomes a fact instead of a blur, and facts are calmer than feelings. That is the heart of Kakeibo. Not complexity, not punishment, just attention. You do not need a perfect system to begin. You need something simple enough to keep using when life gets busy. A notebook on a table, a cup of tea cooling beside it. Coins spread out in the morning light. That is enough. Section 1. Stop trusting memory. Memory is kind, but money needs detail. When spending is easy, it disappears from attention almost immediately. That is why many people are sure they are not spending that much, and then feel surprised by the totals later. The problem is not only the purchase, it is the delay between the purchase and the reflection. Handwriting closes that gap. The act of writing slows you down just enough to notice what happened. It turns a vague feeling into a line on a page. It makes the purchase real. That is powerful because once something is visible, you can work with it. If you cannot see the leak, it keeps feeling like a personal flaw. If you can see it, it becomes a pattern. And patterns are easier to change than shame. So the first habit is simple. Write it down by hand, not later if you can help it. Not only at the end of the month, during the month. That small daily return is what changes the tone of money. Section 2. Make the budget physical. Kakeibo works best when it feels tangible. Take one notebook, one pen, and 4 broad categories. Food, home, transport, extras. That is enough for a first week. Then record purchases as they happen. If that feels too much, do it once in the evening at the kitchen table. The point is not perfect timing. The point is a daily return. A small kitchen, a list on the counter, a receipt beside a bowl of fruit. It is a simple scene, but it changes the mood of money. Money stops being abstract. It becomes something you can place, read, and understand. At the end of the week, do not ask, "Did I do this perfectly?" Ask, "What kept repeating?" That one question matters, because perfection is noisy. Patterns are useful. Maybe groceries were fine, but snacks kept appearing. Maybe you stayed disciplined Monday through Thursday, then tiredness took over on Friday. Maybe the problem was not the total amount, but the small purchases that never felt important enough to notice. That is the kind of information a notebook gives you. Not shame. Information. Section 3. Give your money friction. This is where cash becomes quietly powerful. When you pay with cash, there is a pause. You count it, You hand it over. You see the envelope get thinner. That tiny friction gives your mind time to ask a better question. Do I really want this, or do I just want the feeling of buying something? Envelope budgeting works for that reason. You can keep one cash envelope for groceries, transport, eating out, or extras. When one envelope runs low, that is not failure. It is a signal. It tells you the category has reached its limit. And limits are useful. They stop one leak from spreading everywhere else. This is not about becoming rigid. It is about creating a pause before impulse becomes habit. A pause is often enough. You may notice that the most tempting purchases are not always the expensive ones. They are the easy ones. The little treats, the just this once orders, the upgrades that felt normal because the app made them so simple. Cash breaks that spell. Not because cash is magical, because it is physical, and physical things are harder to ignore. If you are using cards for most of your life, do not worry. You do not need to switch everything overnight. Even one cash category can teach you something. Start with the category that tends to drift. That is often where the insight appears first. Section 4. Review the week without noise. A weekly review is where Kakeibo becomes a ritual instead of a task. Not a long one. Not a stressful accounting session. Just a small, calm check-in once a week. Maybe Sunday morning. Maybe after dinner. Maybe in the quiet hour before the house wakes up. Open the notebook. Look at the entries. Compare the categories. Read them slowly. This is where your spending starts speaking back. And before we go deeper, here's the truth many people miss. Money is not only money, it is attention. Every purchase is a small vote for what gets your focus. Every recurring expense is a sign of what your environment is encouraging. Every forgotten subscription is a place where attention slipped away quietly. When you see money this way, budgeting stops feeling like punishment. It starts to look like self-respect. A tidy desk, a rainy window, a notebook open beside tea. A person sitting still for 5 minutes and asking where the week actually went. That is not boring. That is powerful. Because the goal is not to control every feeling. The goal is to notice before feelings spend your money for you. Section 5. Respect the room around you. A lot of people think budgets fail because of weak willpower, but often the room is doing half the work. If your phone is full of shopping apps, if delivery is one tap away, if every evening is shaped by fatigue and convenience, then your environment is making spending easier than thinking. So, change one small thing in the room. Move the notebook to a visible place. Put the calculator beside the tea kettle. Leave receipts in one tray instead of scattered in pockets. Keep the cash envelope where you will actually see it. These are tiny changes, but tiny changes matter when they repeat every day. A quiet apartment corner with a notebook on the desk can do more than a burst of motivation because the environment reminds you before impulse does. And if you like the Japanese idea of matanai, it translates here as a respect for waste. Not throwing away the value of what you already have. Not buying another thing to fix a feeling. Not letting useful objects become forgotten because replacing them feels easier than caring for them. Sometimes the quietest savings come from repairing what is already there. A jacket mended instead of replaced. A small household item used one more season. A tool cleaned and kept. That is not deprivation. That is stewardship. Section 6. Watch the repeat purchases. This is where the real leaks usually live, not in the dramatic one-time splurge, in the things that happen again and again because no one notices the pattern early enough. The extra snack, the convenience lunch, the late-night order, the monthly app, the membership you meant to cancel, the I deserve it purchase that shows up when you are tired, lonely, or rushed. One by one, they feel harmless. Together, they shape the month. So in your notebook, mark repeat purchases clearly, maybe with a little star, maybe with the same color, maybe with a small note beside them. Not to shame yourself, to make them visible at a glance. That is why handwritten tracking can feel so calm. It turns a fog into a page, and a page is easier to understand than a feeling. If you want a practical test, do this at the end of the week. Circle every expense that felt completely normal in the moment, but completely forgettable later. Those are often the real leaks. Not because they were huge, because they were invisible. Section 7. Choose one boundary. A common mistake is trying to fix everything at once. People make a budget, cut 5 categories, cancel 7 things, and declare war on their own life. That usually does not last. A calmer method works better. Choose one boundary, just one. Maybe no delivery food on weekdays. Maybe a cash envelope for snacks. Maybe checking subscriptions once a month. Maybe writing every expense down before bed. One boundary is easier to keep than 10 promises. And when you keep one promise, your confidence changes. Not loudly, quietly. That quiet confidence matters. Because money anxiety is often not only about numbers, it is about distrust. You do not trust the next week. You do not trust yourself around convenience. You do not trust the vague feeling that things are probably fine. A single boundary begins to repair that trust. Section 8. Review without punishment. This is where many budgets break. People see the numbers and immediately start accusing themselves. I was bad. I failed again. I never stick to anything. Please do not do that. The review is not a court case. It is a map. Ask 3 calm questions. What repeated? What surprised me? What can I make slightly easier next week? That last question is important because the answer is usually not become a different person. The answer is smaller. Cook one more meal at home. Move one app off your home screen. Put the cash envelope closer to the door. Plan groceries before you feel hungry. Small improvements compound when they are visible. That is the real gift of Kakeibo. It makes improvement feel ordinary. And ordinary improvement is more sustainable than dramatic self-reinvention. Final section. The overlooked idea. Here is the part most people skip. The notebook is not only for control, it is also for calm. If you treat Kakeibo like a way to punish yourself into better behavior, it will feel heavy. But if you treat it like a weekly conversation with your money, it becomes much kinder. You are not trying to force perfect discipline. You are trying to build a life where your money is understandable. That is a different goal. A quiet weekly ritual. 5 minutes. 10 if you want more detail. A notebook, a pen, a cup of tea. One glance at the week. One decision for the next 7 days. That is enough. And this is the deeper wealth shift. Real wealth is not only having more, it is needing less reaction to know where your life is going. It is the ability to see the month early, while it is still soft enough to change. It is feeling the difference between a real need and a tired impulse. It is knowing that small leaks can be handled without panic. The final weekly question is simple. What purchase felt necessary in the moment but invisible afterward? Sit with that for a second. Do not rush past it. The answer usually points directly to the leak. Maybe it was convenience. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was a category you never clearly named. Then choose one tiny rule for next week. Write every expense by hand, or review subscriptions every Sunday, or keep one category in cash, or plan groceries before the week begins. One rule, one notebook, one quiet check-in. That is enough to begin. If your wallet has felt full while your account has felt empty, start there. Open the notebook. Write the first line. Let the next week be a little more honest, a little calmer, and a little easier to understand. And if this kind of quiet money reset helps you, stay with Quiet Yen. There is more coming, one calm habit at a time.